Hey, how's it going everyone? Today I'm going to cover Lunar Jetman, and by request, I'm going to make this something of a strategy guide as well. First, some background. Lunar Jetman is the second in the Jetpac trilogy by Rare, also known back here as Ultimate Play the Game. In it, you play a Jetman who has crashed onto a planet and has to take out these lunar bases with these bombs that he can carry around in the back of his moon buggy. It's pretty cool and very, very unforgiving and hard. So the first thing to keep in mind here is get comfortable with the keys. I like to position my left hand so that I don't ever have to move it. For example, I know my pinky finger is always going to exit and enter the buggy. And put your right hand somewhere where it's comfortable as well. And there's a lot of leeway here because the entire upper row does thrust, the entire row next to it does fire. And if you've got a joystick, of course, you might want to get one with a button on top. So first order of business always is to put that bomb on your buggy so you can kind of cart it around the level. And this is good because, you can refuel at your buggy, you respawn at the buggy when you die. If you waste a bomb, the bomb respawns at the buggy. So it's kind of a mobile respawner. And you are invincible when you are in your buggy, mostly. So get ready to duck back into it when there's a storm coming or lots of enemies. So here we go, here's the first base we've reached. And we have plenty of time left that you can see at the top of the screen. That's something you really have to worry about in this game because if the time runs out, the base shoots a missile at your buggy, and if it hits it, then it's game over no matter how many lives you have in reserve. You can shoot the missile down, of course, so that's why it's a good idea to keep your eye on the time limit and keep a safe distance if it's getting low, and get ready to shoot down that missile. And here you can see we've really lucked out. The second base was really close to the first one, and this game's a bit random in this regard, but that's not a complete deal breaker because it just means you don't get as many points for that round. You still advance the level and you still get points for shooting down that missile, you just don't get as many points. And usually it ends up that the holes you've patched weren't for nothing because oftentimes it makes the next level easier. And you want to get good at patching those holes fast. You can kind of use the momentum of your little guy to propel the bridges through the air instead of just dropping them straight down over the hole. Here's an example of this coming right up. Just try not to die like that when you're doing it. I think that's one thing that makes the game so maddening to learn is that it's hard to come to grips with the controls, and when you're trying to kind of learn the game for the first time, your experience is that you step outside your craft, you get hit by an asteroid which makes another crater, because when you die it makes a crater, and then you start patching that one and kind of die again, repeat the process, and then it's game over. This game really needed the first mission to be much easier than it is. And there is a difficulty curve, it only gets harder from here. But the first base really should have been a gimme so that the player can get used to the controls and learn the basics. Instead, they kind of just plunge you into this universe with all these really dangerous asteroids just flying right at you. I teleported closer to the base because the time's getting low and it's launching a missile. In that situation, by the time it launches, you want your rover to be far away from the base and your Jetman to be close to the base so that you have ample time to shoot it down. It's handy here that I've parked outside of a teleport that brings me closer to the base because then I can respawn if I die right at the teleporter and go right to the missile. Missile destroyed, and now I'm on level 3. A quick word about the teleporters. You know, you don't quite know where it's going to take you in relation to the base, but if you're looking at the arrow at the top right of the screen and it says, let's say the base is to the right, and then you go through the teleporter and the base is still to the right, then it must be taking you closer to the base. If the arrow switches direction, then you're not really sure. And here I am where things are getting tense, so I'm naturally hitting the wrong key, which is teleporting me over and over instead of picking up the teleporter. There we go. Pretty much everything in this game can be picked up or put on the back of your truck. It's really cool in that regard. You do use more fuel when you're carrying something though, so keep that in mind. Your Jetman does at least. The truck has unlimited fuel, so... I mean the buggy, not the truck. Well, it's a moon truck is what it is. It's really useful. You can cart stuff in it. It can be used as a shield because you're invincible when you're in it, except for that missile. You can kind of hang out in front of the truck and then duck back in when things get tense, when you're kind of filling in those holes. That's why it's good to kind of drive the truck right up to the hole you want to patch. A couple of things about dodging. You really want to stay low to the ground as the Jetman if you can. One thing is that it uses less fuel because you're walking along and bobbing along instead of flying, which is important when you're away from the buggy. And the other perk is that the enemies have fewer angles with which they can hit you, because if you're on the ground, they can't come from underneath. And that's the end of my Jetman's career, I think. Yeah, game over. But I did pretty well. I got to stage 4, or level 4. One thing I really dig about the game is they keep introducing new enemy types. I think they only stop introducing them at level 10, and eventually there's some alien I think that can carry around your stuff, kind of like an adventure. I haven't actually gotten that far yet. Stage 4 is about as far as I can get. And on this playthrough, I'm going to ignore the teleporter, which is not necessarily a bad idea, because it's always a gamble. This game takes a lot of kind of shmup-like dodging skill. One thing to keep in mind is that often it's easier to dodge an asteroid that's going diagonally at you by running towards it than it is running away from it. So, run towards it, run underneath it as it passes over you. Kind of a similar tactic to the grenades in Commando when enemies throw those, if you've played that. If your tumbling spaceman body crushes a turret when you die, I think that should take out the turret. That would be kind of cool. How can you ever be mad at this game? It has such a satisfying ploink sound when your spaceman's body hits the ground and leaves a crater that you'll have to patch up, and will probably die while trying to patch it. So yeah, the game can be quite frustrating, but once you get used to the controls and get some of the strategy down, it can be a blast. I really like it. It's not perfect, of course, but that's what remakes are for, right? Someone should get on that. One more tip before I go. The turret is freaking useless.